let's go out and let's start out with identity. So for identity, let me right click here. I'm going to go out and share my desktop. One of the first things you need to have in order to go out and do this is going to be the tool to work with Windows Azure. So I'm going to open up a new browser page, and what you should see on your screen here in a second, and let's pull this over, is what I've got, and let's just hide that so we can see everything. And by the way, if you have questions, you can either put them in the Q&A pane, or you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and interrupt me. That'd be fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to browse out to windowsazure.com. This is the new site that was released, I believe, in November or December, which allows us to go out and create and manage our Windows Azure cloud environment. Because I'm going to build a mobile application that can connect up to the cloud, I need to have some sort of an account that I can run everything through. If you haven't worked with Azure before, there's a free trial you can go out and sign up for. It's very easy to do. Click on the free trial. It'll take you to where you can actually download, set up the pieces. There's no obligation. There's a automatic stop so that it won't charge you anything. It's absolutely totally free. And then when you get done, then it'll take you to where you can actually see what's going on. So for instance, you can go out to your account and you can then pull up and see, how much am I using, how am I manage things, how am I doing my development. The Development Center provides the download section so I can get the tools I need in order to actually go out and do this. The downloads you can then get either by going out and saying, okay, we'll download the .NET tools, Node.js, Java, PHP, or the other. If you go out to the .NET, you can install the tools for Visual Studio, and that will give you everything you need to do what we're going to do today. That includes the SDK and then a couple of project types that will get added to Visual Studio for you. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to manage our actual Azure instance. And so if I go out to my account and I then click on the Manage link, then what I've got is actual Azure Management Portal. And that is windows.azure.com as opposed to windowsazure.com. This portal is where I can see everything I've got going. I can create hosted services, which are names of URLs I'm going to run in the cloud. Basically, I can go out and I can create all the things that I would need to have. And what I can do here is I'm going to go out and create a new hosted service. And when I create this hosted service, it's going to go out and first of all, let's go ahead and cancel this because I need to actually get the subscription to be loaded. So cancel. So it's loading up the subscriptions here. The subscription data, I actually have like 3 or 4 different subscriptions loaded. You can have more than one subscription. They're all listed all the way through here. So, for instance, I've got a field subscription that has got some data for me. I also have the MSDN subscription. If you're an MSDN subscriber, you get a lot of free use. I also have an introductory offer. Each of these different ones, I can have hosted services, compute, storage, as well as databases. We're going to create a hosted service, and I'm going to throw this into my MSDN subscription. So we'll go to MSDN. We'll give this a name. I'm going to call this RPA on WP7. And we'll go out and put a URL, which has to be unique within all the cloud, RPA on WP7. And I'll pick a region where I'm going to post this into the data center. So we'll throw this in North Central U.S. And then I can decide how I want to do my deployment. Now, I'm not going to deploy it from here because I'm going to deploy it from Visual Studio, but I can create all of these pieces right here and be done with it. Or I can go out and I can just create this from scratch by going out into Visual Studio. And after you've installed the Windows Azure tools for Visual Studio, it has some project types that I can use to create my cloud service. So by default, I go out and I'm running Visual Studio, and I could be running everything from the free version of Visual Studio Express all the way up to Ultimate. When you create a new project and you've installed those pieces with the 1.6 tools, when you click on Cloud, what you're going to get is a Windows Azure project. And I'm going to call this our RPA Cloud, and we're going to throw this into my demos. We're going to call this our Azure UG, and we're going to call the solution name Azure Cloud, RPA Cloud. Click OK, and then it's going to come out and it's going to say, well, what type of the solution or do I want to do. I can add my web roles and basically work through all this stuff. I'm going to create an ASP.NET web role. Although if you have an existing website, sometimes you have an existing website, just a simple ASP.NET website. That's my RPA site. Suppose I've got a site out here called RPA site. I can create and publish that to the cloud just by right-clicking on the solution. So suppose we've got this custom solution sitting out here, this existing site. All I have to do is right-click on this, and I can say publish or add a Windows Azure deployment project. And adding the Windows Azure deployment project adds the role, adds the site, and then takes care of all the pieces I need for configuring and setting this up. So that if I were to go out to this, you can see I can double-click on the RPA site. I can see I'm running one small instance. I can change the size to be 8 processors, 4, 2, or 1, or shared. Since we're doing development, I'm going to do extra small, although I could make it larger and put the instance count up pretty high. I can also go over and change my development storage and all these other pieces. I'm not going to worry too much about this because all I really want to do is I want to take this and I want to say publish. And I'm going to publish it out to our Azure world. So the credentials I'm going to use, I'm going to go out to my MSDN subscription and click on Next. And then it's going to say, here's a subscription. Here's my hosted service. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call this my RPA on WP7. We're going to host this in anywhere U.S., or I'm going to throw it into the Chicago data center up in North Central. And I say, OK. It's going to check the availability of that URL. And assuming that's available, I can turn that on. I'm also going to enable remote desktop. And what this does is it allows me to do admin, like remote desktop into it. I can also set up and configure web deploy. Key thing is getting the web deploy to work. So I'm going to add the admin password for my remote desktop. Say OK. And then I'm going to click on the option underneath here, which is enable the remote desktop and enable web deploy. But click on next and click on publish, and it's going to push this solution all the way up into the cloud for us. So it's taking the existing website, RPA site, and it's going to push this up into the cloud. And it's basically going to give us our first starting spot, which is that Azure cloud instance. What it does is it takes the actual RPA site, compiles it, builds out the assemblies and all the resources it needs, and creates a zipped archive, a package that will actually deploy this out for us. If I'm looking at my site and I say, okay, well, show me all the files, I would be able to see that actual package that got created. But what it does is it's going to go out, it's going to create the actual deployment for me. It's going to connect up to that. It'll upload the certificates I need for the remote desktop pieces to work. When it's done with that, it's going to take the package and push that into the cloud and then actually start it up for us. So here we've got our existing site. It's going to be pushed up to the cloud, and that's where we're going to run our game from. If there's any questions on that, assuming there aren't, I'm going to go ahead and continue on with talking about identity. If I can go back out to my Azure instance, or my Azure portal, and I go out to windows.azure.com, and make this HTTP, there are a number of different features that are available for me to work with the different services, components, and pieces that make this all happen. So if I click on develop and I click on the features, one of the things that I can do is I can work with the different features, the overview of what it is that I can do with this. So let's see here. And from .NET, you've got the access control services, which is your identity pieces. When you click on the access control, what you find is that there's a service that runs for us that acts sort of as a intermediary, a broker, if you will, or a sort of like a bouncer at if I was to go into a restaurant, just make sure that I have the correct identity. He doesn't necessarily work for that location. He might be a third party. And like if you go through airport security, the TSA is not working necessarily for that airport, but they're working for a third party to make sure that all the agents know how identity is supposed to work. So what ACS does is the same thing, but it does it for me in the cloud. It's a third-party service that will take identity from a variety of different providers. So, for instance, if I go to the airport, they may take my driver's license, but they might also take a visa or some other type of identity. There's a certain list of what they will take. Same way, access control services, we define what identities we accept into our application, and then we allow that third party to take care of running that identity conversation for us. To use it, what we can do is we can go out to our management portal, and we click over here in the inside of Windows Azure. Let me try to zoom it here. I have this thing that is called Access Control Service Bus. And when I click on it, I get the list of all of the access control services that I've created so far. And I've got a number of them because I've been playing around with this for quite some time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one inside of my MSDN subscription. And we're going to call this our RPA demo service. So I'm going to create a namespace, which is where the service is going to run. RPA demo ACS. I'll call it demo 2. Pick where I want to run this from, my MSDN subscription, and then pick in the data center I'm going to run this from, the same data center I'm hosting my service, and then I'll check the availability and then create the namespace. Now what this does is it's going to go out and it's going to verify that the name rpa-demo2.cloudapp or .accesscontrol.cloud or .windows.net is available and free for me. And if it is, then it's going to actually instantiate and make it work. So here I've done this with RPA demo. I created this a little bit ago because it takes about 2 minutes to happen. And what I end up with is a management endpoint that I can use to go out and work with this data. So if I zoom in here, what I can do is I can browse out to this endpoint, RPA demo.accesscontrol.windows.net, and from there I can make things work. So RPA demo.accesscontrol.windows.net. And then we'll go out, sign me in. And after I've signed in, then I can configure how I want my identity service to work.